There were moments in my life, like where everything felt overwhelming, and somehow loading into a game world felt like the only place where things made sense again. There's so many times in my life where video games really just got me through difficult times, and when reality got too heavy, I found comfort in stepping into worlds where I could breathe, explore, and just exist without pressure. One of those games, was Fallout 3, and playing Fallout 3 taught me that even in a broken world, there are still choices. There's still hope, and there's still a reason to keep moving forward. In Fallout New Vegas, I learned that your path is yours to shape, even when everything around you feels uncertain or chaotic. You know, Late nights spent wandering through Skyrim, they weren't just gaming sessions, they were moments of peace when my mind finally slowed down. And, another game that I played was Oblivion, and I had a ton of fun with Oblivion, the Shivering Isles DLC, all that stuff. Generally, was a really good experience. But Oblivion gave me a sense of wonder and, escape when I needed it the most. Like stepping into a dream I didn't want to wake up from, It's just like exploring those worlds and kind of just doing the side quests, doing the quests, leveling up, collecting things, upgrading my skills and stuff like that. It served as kind of like a distraction from the stuff that was chaotic in life, the bad times. It was a form of an escape that, I'll never forget. And, I love playing video games, and video games are a huge part of my existence. There were days that I didn't feel strong in real life, but in these games, I was OP as shit. I literally felt so strong, and it kind of filled that void a little bit. And playing Destiny with my brother wasn't just about leveling up, it was about bonding. It was about laughing and creating memories that still stuck with me. And we had so many good times playing Destiny, doing the raids, doing the dungeons, all that stuff. It was so good, bro. Ty, if you're watching this, I love you, bro. But some of my best conversations with my brother didn't happen face to face. They happened during missions, during the raids, during, late night gaming sessions. Another game I played was Mass Effect. And in Mass Effect, I felt connected to the characters and stories that made me reflect on my own decisions and my own relationships. And Mass Effect was really good. I loved how it just gave you choice, and I love how fleshed out the lore was and stuff like that. It was very awesome, and I generally just loved that game. And of course, the ending of the third one was kind of, it left something to be desired. But Mass Effect 2 was peak gaming, bro. But yeah, video games didn't just distract me from pain, They helped me process it in ways that I didn't fully understand at the time, but looking back, I'm like, okay, these really served as a form of a coping mechanism for what I was going through. When I felt alone, logging into a game made me feel like I was a part of something bigger. Even if it was just a digital world, I cared about the side quests and the characters, and building relationships with those characters, especially in games like Oblivion and Skyrim and Mass Effect. The things that you did in those worlds made an impact, and it really made me feel like I had an impact, even when I wasn't really having much of an impact in my personal life. Of course, now that I found content creation and stuff like that, I really feel like I can make an impact and leave something behind for my family to remember me by, when I eventually pass away. But another game I played was Borderlands, and Borderlands brought chaos, humor, and energy into my life during times that felt dull and heavy. And there's something powerful about having a goal in a game when you feel like you have none in real life. And back then, when I was really playing games the most, I didn't really have a clear direction that I was going in. And, games really helped me feel like I was going in some direction, Every quest completed felt like a small victory when I couldn't find wins anywhere else. And, video games gave me structure when my life felt like it was falling apart. Even something as simple as exploring a map or completing side quests, it helped me feel grounded. And these worlds became safe spaces where I didn't feel judged or overwhelmed, The music, the environments, the characters, they all created a sense of comfort that I kept coming back to over and over again, bro. Games were just that for me, and they filled so many different voids, and they really just provided me with that escape. And I think a lot of people do that for the same reason, when life gets crazy or life gets heavy or something like that, you know, you go into those worlds and you become a freaking superhero or a supervillain depending on what choices you make in the game. When I didn't want to face reality, you know, games, they gave me a place to rest without giving up completely. Gaming reminded me that progress doesn't have to be fast. It just has to keep going. And I learned patience through grinding, through failing and trying over and over. There was a game that I played, Elden Ring, dude, and I got my ass kicked in that game, but I kept going and I kept learning the stuff. I do admit I used a guide to finish that game, but I beat every single boss in Elden Ring, and I played through it twice. And I'm so proud because I usually was like an easy mode kind of gamer, but the fact that I was able to actually beat Elden Ring twice really shows, like, oh my god, I actually have skill in video games. Some of my lowest moments were softened by the glow of a screen and a controller in my hand. And, you know, video games didn't fix everything, but they helped me survive long enough to figure things out. They gave me something to look forward to, even when days felt repetitive and empty. And, you know, like, even losing in a game, like, it kind of taught me resilience in a way that real life sometimes couldn't. And, you know, it really tested my patience in those games like Elden Ring, where you're getting your ass kicked over and over again. And it's like, it just teaches you patience, and it teaches you how to continue to get better at what you're doing. And it teaches you how to practice and how to, like, learn the move sets of the enemies and stuff like that. It teaches you how to study. And it's really cool, like the actual real life skills you can get from video games. You know, they teach you problem solving and critical thinking and stuff like that. But I didn't just play these games, I lived in them when I needed to. You know, there's so many days where I played for many hours and just completely escaped the real world into these worlds. And, you know, they taught me that even in darkness, there's always a path forward. You just have to keep walking. And, you know, gaming became more than a hobby. It became a form of healing I didn't expect. The characters I met, they felt like companions during times that I felt isolated, especially like when I was in, like, going into ninth grade, like that 8th to ninth grade. I went through a really big life-changing event, and, you know, video games really carried me through that and allowed me to escape and, you know, pulled me away from the sorrow that I was feeling and the hardship that I was feeling. And I'll never forget that. But, you know, every storyline reminded me that struggle is a part of every journey. And these games showed me that even broken worlds can still have beauty. And when life felt unpredictable, games gave me something consistent. You know, you'd always show up, you'd complete quests, and you felt this sense of accomplishment that you didn't feel in real life because, you know, things were just stagnant at the time. And there's plenty of times where I played games where I was already happy too, obviously, but, you know, it was just nice having that escape. You know, I could always come back, I could pick up where I left off and keep going. And video games helped me reconnect with parts of myself that I thought I had lost, you know? There were times later in life where it brought out my inner child and I started getting excited again, and it was just really fun. And, you know, I'll never forget those moments. Like when I was playing Elden Ring, dude, my inner child came out, and I was very excited just to play these games and to be in this world and to learn about the lore and stuff like that. It was generally just a really good experience, and, you know, I'll never forget that. And I even got to squat up with my brother in Elden Ring, and we beat a few bosses together. Of course, we got our butts kicked a few times, but, you know, we generally did a pretty good job, and I'm generally pretty proud of, you know, how far we came. That's pretty much all I got for this video. I hope that you kind of got something from this. You know, I generally just want to spread like a positive message and hopefully help some other people. And I really do appreciate you guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. You know, leave some comments. I respond to every comment. And, you know, we can keep the conversation going there. And maybe in the next couple days I'll go live again and we can chat and just talk about life and just reflect on things that we all have going on, and, you know, just connect that way, you know, because those lives actually went pretty well. And I had a really good time doing those. But you can definitely expect more uploads from me. And that's pretty much all I got. I'll see you in the next one.